Discover Iran in the Bible, 3 Miraculous Prophecies, 7 Divine Crises, 12 Transforming Destinies. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon besieged Jerusalem. Among those taken captive were young men of noble lineage, including Daniel, who would later seek favor in the courts of Persia. Here, the trembling thread of destiny began to weave, as God's hand prepared the hearts of his people for the trials ahead. Centuries would unfold, leading down to the pivotal moment in the citadel of Shushan, where the young Jewish woman named Esther leaped from obscurity into the light of the royal court. Esther's beauty was renowned, captivating kings and courtiers alike. Yet within the palace's golden walls, she bore the weight of her heritage like a hidden treasure, unknown to the mighty King Ahasuerus. Meanwhile, her cousin Mordecai, a watchful guardian and fervent servant of God, suspected dark shadows gathering over the Jewish community. Haman, a man drenched in pride and malice, sought to annihilate a people for their unwavering faith. The storm clouds loomed dangerously close, and Mordecai's timeless words haunted Esther, "Perhaps you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this." Navigating the opulence of the court, Esther's heart wrestled with doubt and fear. Could she stand before the king and reveal her identity, risking her life for her people? Many nights were consumed in anxious slumber, her dreams haunted by visions of exile and destruction, calling forth both hope and despair. Would the God of her forefathers remain silent in this foreign land, or would he act once more? In another corner of Persia, the steadfast figure of Daniel, now ancient but undaunted, continued to draw strength from prayer, his lifeline to Yahweh. Although the edict of King Darius forbade prayer, Daniel's heart burned for the God who had delivered him time and again. He remained resolute, kneeling in humble reverence, lifting his gaze towards Jerusalem, unwavering in his commitment, believing against all odds that God was still sovereign. Divine whispers carried stories of another leader over the horizon, Cyrus, a king chosen by God, destined to liberate the Israelites from captivity. Prophecies penned long before his reign spoke of his pivotal role in restoring their homeland. Yet how might this Gentile ruler, engulfed by political intrigue, galvanize a movement that defied all odds? The air thickened with tension and anticipation, each heartbeat resonating with the promise of change. As the moment approached, Esther steadied herself against the threshold of the king's throne room, her heart racing. She recalled Mordecai's words, wrestling with the turbulent tides of her lineage and the lives of her people hanging in the balance. Would she rise as their deliverer, or would silence be her response to the cries of a suffering nation? The futility of inaction churned within her, compelling her closer to the throne, where the tenuous balance between safety and peril hung heavily. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. With each step towards the throne, the tapestry of Esther's destiny unraveled, interwoven with Daniel's steadfast faith and Cyrus's unfolding legacy. Would courage be birthed in a moment of divine intersection? The great drama played out in Shushan, each heartbeat echoing with the sacred narrative of God's unfolding purpose. As Esther readied herself, the veil of history quivered with the weight of impending revelation, the path of salvation or demise drawing near. What divine wonders lie ahead as faith and favor clash in the palace of kings? The heart of God beckoned through the uncertainty, mystery unfurling in the storied realms of Persian doors. As the golden rays of the morning sun streamed through the vast windows of the throne room, an uneasy stillness settled like a heavy cloak upon Esther. Steeling her nerves, she considered the monumental choice before her. The king's throne loomed before her, a symbol of power, yet behind it lay a realm of peril for the Jewish people. Her heartbreaking resolve mounted as she stepped forward, every heartbeat echoing her lineage and purpose. Esther recalled the teachings of the elders, the sacred stories of her ancestors, the countless times God had delivered the Israelites from despair. "Shall I not invoke the name of my God in this hour?" she cried silently inwardly. Beyond the marble columns, the laughter of courtiers mingled with the clanging of gold, their lives untouched by the threatening whispers of Haman's decree. Yet she knew her silence could seal the fate of her people. The moment arrived. This was the destiny for which she had been prepared, echoing her uncle Mordecai's words. For such a time as this, they rang in her ears. With hands trembling, she donned her royal garb, threading with it the dignity of her faith, each stitch intertwined with prayers for guidance and protection. As she emerged into the brightly lit court, King Ahasuerus sat upon his mighty throne, radiant in authority. His gaze fell upon her, and in that moment, God's divine favor enveloped Esther. Though every eye in the court cast judgment and curiosity, she found her strength in the promise of him who had called her. Would grace be hers today? "Esther, my queen, what is it that troubles you?" the king inquired, his voice a deep thrum echoing in the silence that had enveloped the room. With every ounce of courage drawn from her forefathers' tales, she stepped forth. "If it pleases the king," she began, "and if I have found favor in his sight, let my life be granted to me, and my people, as I risk all to speak." The words fell from her lips like precious jewels, demanding a response from the throne, a request intertwined with courage and desperation. Before she revealed the sinister plot that threatened her kin, the king's brow furrowed, curiosity pierced through his royal composure. "Who is he, and where is he who dares to presume such actions against my queen?" Esther inhaled deeply, faith lifting her spirits. With the words that would alter her destiny, she pointed to Haman, the prideful adviser whose ambition had threatened her very existence. Gasps from the gathered officials reverberated through the chamber. The rising tide of righteous anger surged within the king, fueled by a protective fervor he had never known. In that moment of revelation, Esther saw how God intermediated, how, through her vulnerability, the light of his purpose was unveiled. Yet beyond the immediate danger, she sensed a deeper truth, a reminder that amid earthly rulers, there existed a higher sovereign. The winds of change began to whisper in the Hall of Kings as Haman's deceit was laid bare, but the divine thread of history was not yet complete. Amid the unfolding drama, a voice clamored for attention, a voice that echoed through Persia, calling forth the fragmented hearts of the Israelites scattered in despair. The decree against them was soon to be signaled for reversal. But what she did not know was how the elements of faith were inextricably aligned, for in the shadows poised a greater deliverance entangled with the fabric of prophecy. As Esther stood in the palace's heart, poised between life and divine intervention, the fate of her people hung in the balance. Would deliverance be penned against the tapestry of a renewed covenant? And so it stirred within the cosmic realms a celestial echo, making way for the promises yet to come. What awaited them on the other side of this pivotal moment? What deeper mysteries remained hidden in the sovereign plans of God? For even as Esther rose to speak, before her unfolded the greatest clash of faith and fate yet to be revealed. The king's heart burned with fury at the revelation, his thoughts racing like a tempest, for he had trusted Haman, the prideful adviser he had once held in such high regard. "Bring him to me," he commanded, his voice echoing with authority that reverberated through the gathered assembly. A tremor of fear cascaded through the crowd, none dared speak as Esther's gaze remained steady upon the king, willing strength and courage into the moment. In haste, Haman was summoned. The tension in the throne room thickened, as those who had once marveled at his cunning now recoiled in horror. The doors swung open, and there stood Haman, his visage twisted in disbelief. It was apparent he did not fathom the weight of his treachery was being revealed. "Is it true, Haman?" The king's voice sliced through the silence, resolute. "Have you plotted against my queen, seeking to destroy her people?" Caught in the snare of his own deceit, Haman's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for breath, but no words emerged. The very air crackled with the indignation of a righteous act. The officials exchanged glances, confusion mingled with fear as the gravity of Haman's actions deepened. In that moment, Esther felt a surge of divine empowerment as she stood as a representative, a vessel of God's purpose for her people. She remembered the words spoken to her throughout her life, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." Her heart beat in unison with the promise of deliverance that resonated through her ancestors. As Haman's deceit unraveled, the king turned his furious gaze back to the trembling wit of his adviser. You shall pay the price for your wickedness. Ahasuerus' declaration resounded, shaking the very stones of the palace. You intended evil against the people of God, but I will turn it for good. In a moment of sovereign reversal, he ordered that Haman be led away. An unthinkable fate awaited him, as the decree of annihilation he had inscribed was in the balance of the king's command. But Esther, emboldened by faith, seizing the moment, stepped forward once more. O king, allow your mercy to extend beyond this single act of justice. Let a decree be issued, one that would preserve and protect my people from this darkness that has hung over us. Ahasuerus paused, his countenance shifting from fury to resolve. It shall be done, he declared. Write a decree in the king's name, seal it with the king's signet, for a new day shall dawn for the children of Abraham. As the scribe dipped his quill into ink, the air filled with the trembling of divine anticipation. Esther's heart raced with the power of the moment. She felt the waves of past sufferings ebb as the tides heralded a dawn of freedom. Yet a whisper of foreboding lingered. What would it require for the Jewish people, scattered and afraid, to embrace this deliverance? Esther knew the work of restoration required more than mere words. It begged of faith and action, and as the decree was signed, God's unseen hand wove the strands of hope and faith. Even Haman's despair could not thwart a divine purpose unfolding, a promise interlaced with a greater truth. What lay ahead for the Jewish people upon this new path? What was the role destined for Esther, chosen for the restoration of a covenant people amidst a backdrop of turmoil? Thus, the quill fell silent over parchment as the story turned, marking not merely an altercation of fate but unveiling God's sovereign plan woven through the hearts of those willing to stand in faith. For a day of reckoning approached, a day when the tides of history would reflect the glory of the Almighty, and fulfill His ultimate promises unto His people. In the days that followed the proclamation, a weighty silence settled over the kingdom, reverberating through the streets of Susa as the news spread like wildfire. The fate of the Jewish people hung delicately in the balance, and the hearts of many beat with unspoken dread. Esther, marked by her resolve, anticipated the gathering of her people, a time to awaken their spirits and unite them in prayer for the perilous days ahead. As the sun cast long shadows across the sprawling city, Esther gathered her trusted attendants, urging them to prepare a feast, not merely for celebration, but as a rallying cry for strength and hope. The Jewish community, heavy laden with despair, needed reassuring reminders of God's everlasting covenant, a testament to His faithfulness that seemed absent in their current trials. Go, summon the elders of our people, she instructed, her voice firm yet filled with compassion. We must remind them of the Lord's promises from the days of our fathers, when He led us out of Egypt, to this moment, when we stand beneath His watchful eye. We shall beseech the Almighty together. Gathered in her chambers, the elders were wary yet stirred by the spirit of her call. One elder, named Mordecai, rose with a voice resonant with conviction. We are not forsaken, Esther. Though darkness looms, the Lord has chosen you for such a time as this. Let us not cower in fear, but rise in faith. Our God fights for us. A murmur of agreement swept through the assembly, hearts igniting with a shared understanding of their reliance on God's hand. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, they gathered around tables laden with food, a symbol of sustenance not only for their bodies but for their spirits. Esther led them in prayer, invoking remembrance of God's deeds and affirming trust in His divine plan. Great God of our fathers, she beseeched, we come before you, vulnerable and weary, yet hopeful. We ask for courage, for peace in our hearts, and for steadfast faith as we face uncertain days ahead. May your light shine through our darkness, and may our voices rise in unison to declare our reliance on you. As the first light of dawn pierced through the night's veil, a hush filled the air, palpable and electric. Unbeknownst to them, whispers of divine intervention echoed through the heavenly realms. A tidal wave of hope was rising, set in motion by their united prayers. Meanwhile, in another chamber of the palace, Haman, once untouchable, sat in anguish, shackled by his own making. The very gallows he had constructed for Mordecai now loomed as a phantom of his treachery, a constant reminder of the impending justice that awaited. I have fallen from favor, he lamented, his heart twisted in anguish. But just beyond his walls, the echoes of Esther's gathering reached heaven's gates, stirring the hearts of angels to bear witness to the unfolding of a divine strategy. And as word of unrest grew, so too did the urgency of the king's heart. He wrestled with visions of pestilence among his subjects, and as the sun rose higher, he sought counsel from those once aligned with Haman. "Let us see what the days bring forth," he murmured, troubled by the shadows of uncertainty that plagued his mind. "There is more at stake than mere decrees, there are lives entwined in this tapestry of fate." As Esther's resolve solidified and the plans of Haman began to unravel, the stage was set for a confrontation that would reveal the greater glory of God, the very glory manifested in the deliverance of his people, for even now, beneath the weight of uncertainty, a divine plot was threading through history, a promise still hanging in the balance. What would become of Haman's fate? How would God's design for Esther's courage unfurl in the days to come? In this divine drama, where faith and fear intertwined, the echoes of history spoke of a deliverance yet to unfold, a deliverance that would change the course of their lives forever, as God prepared to reveal his sovereign purpose among them. As the sun rose over Susa, casting golden rays upon the rooftops and stirring the hearts of the citizens, Esther stood at her window, enveloped in prayer. She felt the weight of her people's despair, but also the flicker of divine hope igniting within her soul. "O Lord," she whispered, "guide me in this hour. Your will be done." Her heart ached for those she loved, and she knew that her moment to act was fast approaching. Gathered in the palace was the king, immersed in troubled thoughts. The echoes of Esther's gathering resonated within him, and he felt a stirring discomfort. Why should there be such a shadow cast over us? He pondered. What darkness seeks to take root in my kingdom? His heart wrestled against a tide of foreboding, filling the atmosphere with tension. In the meantime, the edict hung heavily over the Jewish people, igniting fears and whispers of suspicion. Yet within the assembly of the faithful, strength grew as they remained steadfast in their prayers. Mordecai, emboldened by the words of Esther and the unity of their hearts, stepped forth to rally the people. "Brothers and sisters," he called out, his voice echoing in the chamber, "we must remember the Lord's deliverance and stand firm in our identity as his chosen ones. For it is written, the Lord will fight for you, you need only to be still." Exodus 14 verse 14. As the gathering swelled, the spirit of courage enveloped them, and they prayed fervently, crying out for divine intervention, for justice, for a miracle to be wrought in their midst. Their voices rose in harmony, a collective offering to the heavens, imploring God to turn the tides against their oppressors and to protect his people. Meanwhile, in the shadows of his despair, Haman's mind churned with schemes. Determined to solidify his power, he sought audience with the king. "O king," he began, cloaking his malice with sweetness, "allow me to make a decree that will rid us of the scourge that threatens your realm. The Jews, who do not follow your laws, must be dealt with." "What is it you propose?" asked the king, his brow furrowed. With cold calculation, Haman offered a plan, deceitfully masking his hatred behind a veil of loyalty. He presented riches for the king's treasury in exchange for the annihilation of the Jewish people. "Let a day be set," Haman suggested, "that all who seek your favor may rise against these unworthy ones." The king, swayed by greed and pronouncements of Haman, nodded in agreement, sealing the fate of an entire people with a decree. As the roll of the royal seal fell heavy upon the wax, the shadows deepened, and in that instant, the threat became real. Back at Esther's gathering, a messenger arrived with news of the decree. Gasps filled the room as hearts sank. But even as despair threatened to overtake them, Esther rose amidst the tumult. "Do not give in to fear, my people. The Lord is our refuge. Let us remember his promises." Emboldened by Esther's faith, the assembly joined hands, praying with fervent urgency that God would respond to their cries. "For the sake of his covenant, we beseech you, O Lord. Deliver us." Unbeknownst to them, the heavens were stirring. Beyond the walls of the palace, the angels took notice of the faithful pleading of God's people. A whisper of divine purpose flickered through the air, an assurance that God was indeed orchestrating their deliverance. And as a new day dawned, the stage was set not merely for confrontation, but for the unfolding of God's magnificent plan, a plan interwoven through the fabric of time, calling forth salvation from the jaws of destruction. Little did Haman know that he was but a pawn, part of a greater narrative in which God's glory would shine brightest. The hearts of Esther and Mordecai would soon be tested, revealing their deepest resolve as the final threads of destiny began to intertwine amidst the looming darkness. What miraculous turn would God take in this dire moment? What deliverance awaited his people, concealed yet sure in his covenant promises? The answers lay just beyond the horizon. Esther stood before her people, her countenance a blend of resolve and trepidation. "I must go to the king," she proclaimed, her voice steady despite the tempest within her heart. "And if I perish, I perish." The weight of her words settled upon the assembly, a solemn embrace of the sacrifice that might be required. Mordecai, observing her courage, nodded in reverence. He understood the risk that lay before her, the possibilities of doom and glory intertwined in one bold act of faith. "For such a time as this, Esther," he said softly, his voice a lifeline amidst the gathering storm. As Esther prepared herself, she anointed her face and robes, her spirit bathed in prayer. She invoked the name of the Lord, recalling the promises that God had spoken through the ages, for she knew that her destiny was intertwined with the fate of her people. "O God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob," she cried in the sanctuary of her heart, "let not my life be lost for the deliverance of your chosen ones. May your hand guide my footsteps as I approach the throne." In the palace, the king remained restless, walking the halls of his opulence as though each step took him deeper into a labyrinth of uncertainty. His heart, swayed by Haman's dark counsel, was still clouded with the weight of his impending decision. Suddenly, a murmur rippled through the royal court as news of Esther's approach reached his ears. What brings Queen Esther before the king, unbidden, he wondered. Is it for favor or for confrontation? Esther entered the royal court, her heart pounding like the drums of war. The king looked up from his throne, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "What is it, Queen Esther? What is your request?" "Even to half my kingdom, it shall be granted you." Courage surged through Esther's veins as she bowed slightly, acknowledging the king's authority amidst her trembling spirit. "If it pleases the king," she began, "let my life be granted, and the life of my people. For we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed, to be slain, and to be annihilated." Her voice rose with fervor, carrying the weight of her people's plight, echoing the very essence of their cry. The king's brow furrowed, confusion giving way to alarm. Who is he, and where is he, who would presume to do this? The noble fury of a king awakened, as shadows of betrayal began to dance in his mind. "It is this wicked Haman," Esther revealed, her heart steadying. "He sought to bring destruction upon the Jews, and I am one of them." As she spoke the names of the oppressed, an invisible weight pressed down on Haman, ensnaring him in the snare of his own devices. Haman's face blanched, understanding dawning upon him like the rising sun illuminating the depths of his treachery. Amidst the rising tide of anger and grief, the king's wrath intensified. "What treason is this?" he bellowed, rising from his throne with the full authority of the crown. "Guard this man," commanded the king, gesturing toward Haman, whose heart raced with the realization that the web he had woven for others had ensnared his own fate. As Haman was cast into despair, Mordecai watched from a distance, a prayer of thanksgiving finding its way to heaven. "For the plans of the enemy have fallen into ruin, and the Lord is our salvation." He felt the divine current of God's providence flow through the hearts of the faithful. In that moment, Esther was reminded that even amid the shadows of plans set against God's people, his divine purpose could not be thwarted. And as the king decreed a new fate for the Jews, the echoes of prophetic promise resonated with the weight of history, intertwining past deliverances with the hope of what was to come. Yet amidst this unfolding drama, a question loomed large, shrouded in divine mystery: what further challenges awaited the faithful in the land of Susa? How would God's sovereign hand guide his people through the climax of this cosmic battle? The answers, hidden yet assured, awaited revelation in the unfolding tapestry of his perfect plan. The king, in a fury stoked by the flames of betrayal, commanded, "Take Haman away. Let him be hanged upon the gallows that he prepared for Mordecai." As the servants of the king led Haman away, a solemn silence fell over the court, broken only by the muted sound of Esther's prayer still echoing in the chambers of her heart. The decree against the Jews now hung in the balance of the king's decree. Esther, filled with a tumult of emotions, turned her gaze toward the king, her heart pounding with the weight of her people's future. "O king," she implored, "if it pleases you, let no decree be made without your careful scrutiny. For our lives are at stake, and justice must not be forgotten." The king's eyes flickered with the embers of his conscience, a realization dawning upon him that he had been misled. "I had trusted the advice of Haman," the king declared, his voice tinged with regret and realization. "But now, my queen, let us speak of how we might restore your people." Mordecai, emboldened by the fate of his enemy and moved by the Spirit, stepped forward to stand by Esther's side. "Your Majesty," he said with respect, "the decree against the Jews must be changed, for it is written that no one shall call for their annihilation unjustly. Indeed, justice must prevail." His voice resonated with authority, as though the words flowed from the very lips of God. The king, moved by the boldness of Mordecai's appeal, responded, "Then let a new decree be issued, that on the day appointed for the destruction of the Jews, they may rise up and defend themselves and be granted victory over their foes. Let it be written swiftly." At the king's command, the scribes were summoned and a new edict was written in the king's name. The words poured forth like a stream of righteousness, proclaiming that the Jews would not only survive but triumph over their adversaries. In the city of Susa, a great transformation began to ripple through the hearts of the people. The fearful were filled with courage, the oppressed with hope, and the downtrodden lifted their heads. The decree spread throughout the kingdom, carrying the name of Esther and the boldness of Mordecai. As the day of reckoning approached, the heart of the Jewish people resonated with an unwavering faith in their God. They gathered in prayer, fasting, and beseeching the Lord of hosts, drawing strength from the stories of old of the parting of the sea, the walls of Jericho, and the deliverance of Daniel from the lion's den. Yet, unseen by the eyes of men, the spiritual realm stirred with anticipation. The forces of darkness conspired as hope ignited in the hearts of the faithful. Haman had not gone quietly, his heart was still set against the Jews, even as the gallows rose as a grim monument to his treachery. Mordecai, standing tall in the face of adversity, declared, "For the salvation of the Lord is near, and he shall deliver his people from the hand of those who seek our destruction." Esther, her voice rising in unity with her people, called out, "O mighty God, we trust in your deliverance. Let the heavens respond, for the day of vindication is at hand." And as a tension simmered in the air, a divine peace descended, a reminder that even in moments of darkness, the light of God prevails. Yet, a shadow lingered, for the battle was far from over. A deeper revelation awaited, one that would unravel the intricate threads of fate and reveal how the power of vengeance would ultimately bring forth an even greater deliverance. What divine orchestration would unfold next? Only the sovereign Lord knew, and the mystery lingered in the hearts of his faithful. As the dawn of the fateful day drew near, the city of Susa buzzed with the fervor of anticipation and dread. The new decree had spread like wildfire, igniting a flame of courage among the Jewish people. Yet, they knelt before the Lord, their hearts heavy with the knowledge of what lay ahead, their prayers ascending like fragrant incense. Esther, clothed in her royal garments, felt the weight of her position more than ever. She stood before her maidens, who shared her burden. "What shall we do?" one whispered, her voice trembling. Esther, feeling the pulse of her people's hope, responded, "We will not cease to pray. The Lord is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Our God is the same who delivered our forefathers." In the heart of darkness, a divine orchestration unfolded. Mordecai, emboldened by the weight of his faith, called the Jewish elders to gather. "Hear me, my brothers and sisters. We stand at the precipice of destruction, yet the hand of our God is upon us. Take heart, for he has granted us the wisdom and the favor of King Ahasuerus." As their hearts unified under the assurance of divine providence, a hush fell over them. They contemplated the significance of the days ahead and the remnants of Haman's hatred still lurking. "Even as we prepare for what comes, we must remain steadfast. The Lord is our banner," Mordecai urged, yet beyond the gates of the palace, the Jewish adversaries seethed with malice. Though Haman is hanged, his spirit lives on. We shall not relent until every last Jew is wiped from this earth. They met in darkened corners, plotting to thwart the newfound hope bestowed upon the people. Back in the palace, the king awoke with a start, a dream weighing heavily upon his heart. As he pondered the mysteries of the night, the memories of Mordecai's loyalty resurfaced. "What honor has been given to Mordecai for saving the king's life?" he inquired of his attendants. The attendants hesitated. "Your Majesty, he has received none." The king, agitated by this oversight, summoned Haman's remaining officials. "Let the decree stand, yet let us ensure that Mordecai is honored publicly. A royal robe, a horse, and the grandeur of our kingdom shall be his, for he deserves recognition." When Haman's servants carried the message of honor to Mordecai, the very irony unraveled the strings of his treachery. "The man he intended for destruction is now a beacon of esteem," they murmured, incredulous. Esther and Mordecai, at the heart of this unfolding drama, clasped hands in prayer, for they understood the stakes. The time of reckoning loomed ever closer, and the weight of their people rested on their shoulders. "O Lord, guide us in this hour," Esther breathed, for they knew that the clash between good and evil, the very essence of spiritual warfare, had only begun. That in the realm unseen, angels readied themselves, poised to engage with powers of darkness. The stage was set for what would become a pivotal moment in the history of God's people. What grand plot was unfolding in the silent whispers of heaven? What ultimate deliverance awaited those who held fast to their faith? And as the tension rose, a singular revelation pulsated through the hearts of the faithful. When God's people seek him earnestly, not even the darkest nights can tear apart the tapestry of his unfailing promises. As the day of reckoning dawned upon the city of Susa, the murmurs of the Jewish people echoed through the streets, a haunting melody laced with both fear and hope. Esther, fully aware of the peril that loomed, took her place within the royal court, her heart a tempest of emotions. "My people cry out for deliverance," she thought, and the burden of her mission weighed heavy upon her. With steadfast resolve, she approached the king's throne, her spirit aflame with courage born from faith. King Ahasuerus, unaware of the perilous schemes around them, looked upon her with favor. "What is your request, Queen Esther?" "It shall be given to you, up to half my kingdom," he declared, his voice echoing in the marble halls. Esther, cloaked in resolve, whispered, "If it pleases your Majesty, let you and Haman come to a banquet I have prepared." A curious glimmer sparked in the king's eyes, and he consented, rallying Haman to join them. As they feasted, the air thick with tension, Esther's heart raced with the weight of her concealed truth. "O Lord," she prayed silently, "grant me the words that will turn the tide." After indulging in lavish dishes and wine, the king turned to Esther, eager for the revelation she withheld. "What is your wish, my queen?" With bated breath and trembling hands, she spoke, "If I have found favor in your sight, let my life be granted me and my people, for we have been sold, I and my people, to be destroyed." Gasps filled the air as Ahasuerus, confusion dawning upon him, demanded, "Who is he, and where is he who dared to presume to do so?" Esther's eyes resolutely met Haman's, whose face blanched as the realization struck like thunder. "The adversary and enemy is this wicked Haman," she declared, and the room fell into a suffocating silence, the very fabric of their lives fraying under the weight of unveiled treachery. The king's fury ignited. "Hang him on the gallows," he prepared for Mordecai. His voice thundered. Haman, once exalted, now trembled as the guards seized him. It was a swift reversal, and Esther felt the pulse of divine intervention synchronized with her heart. As the hangman's noose was tightened, a wave of relief washed over Esther, yet the gravity of their plight remained. The decree against her people still lingered, and a deep urgency broiled within her. "What shall we do now, O Lord?" she whispered, as she turned once more to the king, a plan forming within her heart. "May I implore you to reverse the wicked edict against my people? For we are in peril. Bring forth the scribe," commanded the king, as the tension swelled anew, signing declarations that would either save or condemn them. In these moments, the weight of ancestral promises hung heavily as the mouths of lions were called to roar. outside the palace, despair clouded the skies, where the adversaries of the Jews conspired in the shadows. Even in despair, we will not relent. They schemed. Yet God, who watches over the covenant people, prepared a divine counter in the hearts of his faithful. Esther, her heart aligned with the eternal and the now, sensed the peering eyes of heaven upon her. In the pending acts of boldness, she understood the divine tapestry that weaves together destinies. She knew, the time was nearing for God's sovereign plan to unfurl fully. Amidst the turmoil, hope flickered, the day could mark a new chapter for Israel. What deeper mysteries was God revealing even in this hour of anguish? What transformation awaited the Jewish people through the unfolding of his purpose? With the king's decree not yet finalized, the heavenly realms held their breath, knowing deliverance was at hand. In the days that followed, a palpable shift coursed through Susa. Haman's treachery lay exposed, and the king's wrath burned with righteous fury. Yet, beneath the tumult, there stood Esther, the crown jewel of courage, daring to intercede for her people. With unwavering resolve, she steeled herself against the weight of history and destiny, intertwining her fate with that of Israel. Gathering her courage once more, she stood in the king's chamber, her heart echoing the chants of her people imploring God's mercy. O King Ahasuerus, she began with grace but unyielding authority, the decree against my brethren must not stand. I beseech you, let us reconsider our course, for my people are but sheep led to slaughter. King Ahasuerus, still wrestling with the gravity of recent events, turned his gaze upon Esther, seeking the answer to their plight in her eyes. What is to be done? He implored, his voice tempered with desperation. Esther, seeing the flicker of compassion ignite within him, recalled the covenant promises of God and felt the holy flame ignite within her spirit. Let a new decree be issued, Esther demanded boldly, her voice unwavering in the face of uncertainty. On the day appointed for our destruction, let us instead rise up against those who conspire against us. Give us the strength to defend ourselves, and let justice roll forth as a mighty river. The king's countenance brightened with purpose, and he summoned the scribes. Write according to Esther's words, and let it be known that the Jews may gather with courage and fortitude, all aided by my royal decree. May they not only survive but overcome their adversaries. The quills danced across the scrolls, the ink shimmering with prophetic promise. Indeed, hope blossomed amidst the ruins of despair. As news of the new decree spread like fire through the city, hearts were revived. The fearful arose emboldened. With each passing hour, the Spirit of the Almighty surged within the Jewish people, reminding them of his steadfast love. They gathered in prayer, crying out, "The Lord will fight for us, we shall be still." And God, in his infinite compassion, moved mightily among his people. Esther emerged anew, her spirit kindled with the hopes of her ancestors and the promise of the ages. She called upon the elders and leaders to assemble, reminding them of the victories their God had wrought throughout generations. Let us not forget, she warned, the Lord our God is not a distant deity, he is our present help. Remember how he delivered us from Egypt, how he parted the seas, and provided in our every need. Now, we must act in faith. As the appointed day of conflict loomed ever closer, an urgency cascaded through the ranks of the Jewish people. Mordecai, emboldened by the power of the new decree, became a herald of faith. We are chosen, God fights with us. Stand firm, for we shall witness his salvation today. His words lit a flame of confidence, igniting hearts intertwined with the lineage of promise that stretched back through generations. Meanwhile, Haman's plans lay in tatters, his shadow diminishing against the radiant glory of God's providence. Even as he faced impending doom, darkness whispered its futile schemes, "You shall not relent. Your hatred shall rise again." Yet all the while, unbeknownst to him, the divine was orchestrating a resurrection of hope from the ashes of despair. On the day of destiny, as the sun rose with a fiery splendor, Esther and Mordecai stood united on the brink of a new chapter for their people. The city's heart pulsed with anticipation as the Jews gathered, the shouts of unity resounding across the lands. Unyielding faith filled the atmosphere, mingling with prayers, a palpable stirring of angels responsive to the cries of God's children. "Behold, our God is with us," Esther proclaimed with unshakable conviction as she faced her assembled kin. Today, we stand not just to defend but to declare our identity as the covenant people of the Most High. Let us arise with courage and boldness, for the God of our fathers goes before us. As the hour struck, the clash of faith and the warfare of hopes echoed amid the tumultuous skies. The Jewish people, emboldened by divine favor, engaged with their oppressors, not in vengeance but with the unwavering strength that faith provides. From the ashes of despair arose a spirit of triumph, a testament to faith's unparalleled might. King Ahasuerus, witnessing the unfolding of God's magnificent plan, recognized the redemption unfolding before him. In the name of the Jewish people, he thundered, proclaiming justice throughout the lands, a decree ringing in all of Persia. With every action, what unfolded was not merely a battle fought by mortal hands but a sovereign act of God woven through the tapestry of time and faith. Thus, the legacy of Esther and Mordecai echoed through the ages, a reminder that even in the direst of circumstances, faith's light can pierce the deepest shadows. The people rejoiced, proclaiming, "The Lord has worked mighty wonders, and we shall celebrate forever his great deliverance." And as they feasted together in the heart of Susa, they penned a new story, a supplanting of sorrow with joy, proving once and for all that no decree of evil, no plot of Haman could thwart God's divine purposes. Valiant hearts transformed by divine assurance celebrated God's favored deliverance, and in a royal decree that echoed through the halls of heaven, they captured the essence of hope resounding through eternity. For such a time as this, we rise to claim our heritage. As we reflect upon this magnificent tale, consider how God's faithfulness has orchestrated miracles across history. You need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Don't wait even one more second to share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Leave a like now to help spread God's Word through the algorithm, and comment your spiritual reflections on this biblical narrative. Together, let's amplify His glory.